Welcome to Moments with MamasteFit. In this mini podcast episode, I'm going to be sharing how I am homeschooling my first grader, raising 4 kids, primarily solo parenting as a military spouse, and running a business full time. How am I doing it all? I'm going to share my secrets in this episode. Welcome to the MamasteFit podcast. My name is Gina. I'm a perinatal fitness trainer and birth doula, and I'm a mom of 4, and I'm homeschooling one of those 4. Next year, I'll be homeschooling 2 of them. Military spouse, my husband is frequently gone for work trips, so I am also primarily solo parenting. And I am the founder and CEO of MamasteFit, which is a perinatal fitness training company where we have an in-person training facility that I coach at throughout the week, in addition to an online training platform, plus a social media platform where we share tons of free content. So there's a lot going on with my business. There's a lot going on with my kids. And so there's just a lot going on in general. And so I get this question a lot. How do I do it all? How am I managing all of this stuff? And the first thing is I don't do it all. That is my biggest secret. I don't do it all. And the things that I do, I do have a lot of support with. And so finding your team or your village is going to be really important. And that is something that I've been really grateful to have. So my family lives nearby. I have my mom and dad that primarily help with childcare. Roxanne lives nearby. So we kind of tag team with our kids as well. And when my husband is home, he's a very active partner and father and is incredibly helpful and supportive to me and is my biggest fan. So I'm really grateful for him as well. And then the second part of that is I don't do it all. I prioritize a lot and I say no a lot to things. So there are certain things with my business that I would love to do that I just don't have the time to do, so I say no to that. And there's certain things that I would love to do with my kids, but same thing, I have to say no to certain things because we just don't have time as a family to fit it all in. And so we do a lot of prioritizing of what is most important to us for our family, for my business, and then we say no to certain things. So I'm going to talk about how I am juggling it all, how I am figuring out what things I need to say no to, and what my plans are for the future. At a certain point, I won't be homeschooling, and that'll be the time where I can focus more on my business. And so right now, I have a little bit more of a focus on my kids in my homeschooling journey. And so there might be certain programs and offerings that we don't have with MamasteFit because of that, but this is just the phase of life that I'm in right now. So let's dive into how am I doing it all. The first thing is scheduling. So I have to schedule my week out in a lot of depth and kind of dedicate different block times that I'm going to be doing certain types of activities. And within those block times, I'm also prioritizing what tasks I want to get accomplished, starting with the most important one, finishing with the least important one, just in case I don't get to it because maybe a certain task takes me a little bit longer than I was anticipating. And within those block times, I also have to allocate for rest times as well. It's unreasonable for me to think that I'm going to work 4 to 5 hours nonstop. And it's also unreasonable for me to think that my first grader is going to do schoolwork for 2 to 3 hours nonstop. So I also have to allocate rest times within these time blocks. But I start every Sunday or Saturday and I sit down and I plan my entire next week. And typically the weeks are pretty similar to one another. But within those time blocks, I'm going to figure out what those tasks are that we want to accomplish so that we have a plan the day of. So I'm essentially doing my lesson planning and I'm figuring out what tasks I need to do for my work in all these different block times. Once I figure out what my tasks are going to be for that week, then I figure out what childcare needs I have. Because if I'm going to be working, I need somebody else to be primarily focused on my kids. And this is where I coordinate my schedule with my mom or with my husband to figure out, okay, who needs to be where in order for me to get things done. Now, my work day or our homeschooling day is not always 9 to 5. Sometimes we prioritize it more on the weekends, maybe a little bit more in the evenings based on our weekly schedule and demands. I use Google Calendar primarily to figure out my plan each week. You can use whatever medium or resource works best for you. I also have a paper planner that I can utilize, but I typically find the electronic calendar is easier for me to do because I can adjust the schedule, I can put notes in, and I can also share that calendar with my husband, with my mom, with Roxanne, with anyone that needs to know what is going on. And so for me, Google Calendar is the easiest option, but there's tons of really great options out there. The next thing is going to be, what is my general setup looking like? Because I can't just have all these block times. I have to have some sort of support in other ways. In our county, we have a blend ed program, and this is primarily for homeschoolers, where they get to go to 2 days a week at the public school, and then the rest of the week they homeschool. This is unique to our county. It may be available in other areas within the country, but it's something that I'm super grateful for. And so 2 days a week, my oldest goes to the local elementary school, which is really great because one, she gets to learn from a different adult, she gets to interact with different kids, but she doesn't have to go 5 days a week. In addition, because she's doing this blended program, she also gets access to school resources so she can join sports teams, she could do clubs. She also has access to different programs that they offer. So, for example, she's in their academically gifted program, and so she gets to utilize that resource within her school. She gets to enter different writing competitions. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that public school offers that she has access to, but again, only has to go 2 days a week. Her class size is really small, and she has the same teacher that she's had since kindergarten, which I think is really awesome. My second child, my son, he's 4 years old. He also goes to a preschool 2 days a week. But next year, I'm going to have my middle two kids go to preschool 5 days a week just for a few hours in the morning, just to give us that dedicated homeschooling time with pretty minimal interruptions. Now, what does a sample week look like for us? Monday, Tuesday, and Friday are our primary homeschooling days, and then Wednesday and Thursday are my primary work days and the days that my kids are going to be in some sort of school. Again, next year, my younger kids are going to be in a 5-day-a-week preschool in the morning, but I'm still going to have a very similar overall structure to my week. On our homeschooling days, we use a variety of different curriculums. We do some work at the desk, some work we do more play focus, and then we also do field trips. So we kind of mix it up depending on the week. When it comes to choosing a curriculum, we use a variety of different curriculums based on what we're wanting to do. The primary focus that we have right now in first grade and that we had in kindergarten was teaching my daughter how to read, continuing to advance her reading skills, really starting to go over writing and spelling and figuring out how to write stories, for example. And then we're focusing a lot on math. We also have a curriculum that's specific to science that we're utilizing. And then we do a lot of art and coloring and puzzles and some sort of non-traditional ways of learning as well. The curriculums that we use specifically may or may not be a good option for you, and there's tons of options out there. There's lots of resources that kind of review different curriculums depending on different things that are really important to you. You can find curriculums that are very secular, or you can have ones that are more religious-based. You can have ones that focus on different topics. So there's so many different options out there. I've joined a few different Facebook groups specific to my state that I found to be really helpful because there are different laws in regards to homeschooling. And I kind of look up what other people are doing for different grades, and then we test them out ourselves. Some curriculums will offer samples as well, which I find really helpful to figure out if it's a good fit for you all. With reading, we started with Logic of English, and that's still what we're primarily using to learn phonetics, to learn how to put words together. And now we've kind of made it to the point where my first grader is mostly just reading chapter books. So my primary focus is to find books for her that she enjoys reading. We've tried a variety of graphic novels, more just chapter books where it's just words, and she's kind of exploring what type of books that she enjoys so that we can kind of continue to buy those type. We're also using Handwriting Without Tears to help with spelling, to help with handwriting, learning cursive, in addition to help with learning how to write. And then for math, we're using Mammoth Math. They do offer free samples, which is how we got started with them. And I really enjoy their curriculum because it gives kind of the lesson plan within the lesson at the same time. So there's not a whole ton of prep that I have to do. We also tried Beast Academy, which is an online-based platform, and they do have a workbook, but my daughter has preferred Mammoth Math over Beast Academy, but we may kind of sprinkle that in as we go because it's really fun to play the games online. And then for science, we're using Blossom and Root. They have a whole curriculum for first grade, and it goes really in depth into a lot of different activities, and they also offer different options where they have more table-based learning, activity learning, outdoor learning, video-based learning. And so there's a lot of different options for each lesson, which I find to be really helpful so that we can kind of explore what works best for us each week. But again, there's a ton of different curriculums out there. There are secular curriculums, there's religious curriculums, there's so many different options. And it's just kind of figure out what works best for you and for your family. And we've kind of changed around what we've utilized as well, but definitely look for those free samples. Look for other people's recommendations and just figure out what types of topics are most important for you that you want to teach to your kids. In addition to the curriculums, we're also incorporating a lot of play-based learning as well. So we do a lot of board games, we do puzzles, We're really into coloring right now. We've been using like the alcohol markers to color. And so we're doing a lot of different things together where my daughter and I can kind of sit down and play with one another. My 4-year-old can sometimes join as well. We play like Junior Monopoly. Outfox is a really great one. I'll make a list of different board games that we play down in the show notes below because they're really fun. They're really appropriate for different ages. But sometimes our toddler does Hulk Smash, the board game, which can make it a little bit more challenging. But we do like to play board games to learn the states, to learn math and reading. And so there's different ways that we can incorporate play to help complement learning as well. And then one day a week, we do field trips. So we either go to the aquarium, the North Carolina Zoo, we do children's museums. We go outside the home to play, and I really allow my daughter to kind of explore each place that we go without a ton of direction or guidance. And so we'll go to the zoo, and she'll figure out what type of animals that she wants. And then as we're at the zoo, we'll kind of figure out an activity that she can do after the fact to help her reflect on the field trip. So if we're at the zoo, I'll have her pick whichever animal is her favorite. We'll come home, we'll read about that animal, we'll do drawings, we'll do a puzzle with that animal, and we'll figure out different things kind of revolving around this thing that she learned about at the zoo. So our general homeschooling week is we have 2 days a week that we're doing a lot of table-based learning, either with our workbooks, we're doing art activities, we're doing puzzles, but we're primarily sitting at the desk and doing like a more traditional style of learning. And then one day a week, we're doing a field trip outside of the home so that we can learn about things in a different way. And then throughout the day, there's tons of free play as well. And so it's really important to me that my daughter has a lot of time to just kind of play with her toys, to explore things, because I really think that it helps with her creativity. And so for our homeschooling day, it's maybe an hour to 3 hours max each day. And then the rest of the day is open for her to play. On Wednesday and Thursday, these are going to be our school days and our primary work day. And so in the morning, drop off my daughter and my son at school. And then my mom comes and watches the younger 2 kids as I coach at the gym. These are the days that I'm going to be prioritizing my own tasks to figure out what filming things that I need to do, what social media content needs to be created, what blogs need to be written. And I try to get all of my work done on these 2 days. And again, I'm making a list and I'm prioritizing within that list of what tasks that I'm going to be accomplishing. Usually at the top of the list is things that I have to film, like this podcast, for example, the workout videos that we need to do. And then the next thing on the list is going to be editing, writing blogs, and the last thing will be admin tasks. Usually the admin tasks and computer-based work, I can kind of squeeze in at different points throughout the week. So primarily on Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'm going to be focusing on stuff that I need to be in the studio for, that I need to be uninterrupted for. And then when it comes to my business, there are things that I have to say no to because I just don't have the time or the capacity in order to do it. And so right now I'm actually taking a break from supporting births in person as a doula because it was something that was a little bit too unpredictable for me and my family being on call, in addition to solo parenting with all of the other competing demands that I had. So unfortunately, it's just one of the things that I have to put a pause on for right now. In the future, I hope to come back to it as a birth assistant for our local home birth midwife. Maybe I'll come back to being a doula, but it's just one of the things that I had to put a pause on because I just needed to say no to something. And there's other things within my business as well that I have to say no to right now because I'm focusing on too many other things. Eventually, I would love to go back to school to get my PhD in human movement. I would love to create a lot more courses. I would love to go more in depth with different workout programs that we offer, but it's just not something that I have the capacity for. And so I have to say no to it. And it's okay. This is a phase. There will be a point in the future where I'll have way more time than I'm wanting in order to do all of these things for my business. It's also really important that I schedule time within my week for my own rest and relaxation. I need to schedule my workouts. I need to schedule time that I'm just coloring and doing puzzles and doing my own hobbies, time that I'm spending with my husband and spending time with my kids one-on-one. And so I have to make space in my schedule for all of these other things as well. I can't just be constantly working throughout the week because it's just going to increase my stress levels. Now, another big question that I get is, what am I doing with my younger kids while I'm homeschooling my first grader? Like, not all of them nap anymore. They all wake up kind of at the same time. So there's really not a ton of free time where the other 3 kids are not there for me to be able to focus on homeschooling. So what we do is each week we pick a theme for the week and I come up with a bunch of activities for that theme. And so I let the kids pick the theme. I usually try to keep it around based on like what the season is, holidays, what month it is. And so for the month of March and April, we're doing like spring themed stuff. And so lots of stuff with planting and gardens and rainbows and rain. And so I let them pick which theme they want, and then I come up with a bunch of activities. I use ChatGPT to help me come up with activities too, because it's a really awesome resource for that. So I'll let ChatGPT know, hey, I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a baby, and I want to come up with 5 activities each week based on this theme. And it'll help me come up with a bunch of stuff. Some of them I don't use, some of them I do, but it gives me a lot of different ideas and inspiration. And so with each week, I usually come up with some sort of sensory bin that involves like pouring and different like hunting, tweezing toys within the sensory bin. I also use different types of media. So I'll use kinetic sand, I'll use just sand, I'll use rice, maybe some dried beans within it for them to kind of play and pour with. I'll also have some fine motor skill activities such as like threading the beads. Maybe we're like moving toys from one thing to another with tweezers. And then I'll have some art activities. So dot markers, just markers, crayons, coloring pages. And I'll have those laid out for the kids each week so that they can play with it fairly independently. Some weeks, though, the activities are not enough to occupy my younger kids. So we'll either put on like a movie for them, or I'll ask for help from my mom and have her come over to watch the younger kids while I focus on my oldest. Or we wait until later in the evening when my husband is home or when the other kids are a little bit more quiet so that we can focus on our homeschooling together. And so the great thing about homeschooling is we have a lot of flexibility with our schedule. So if the time block that I had allotted to homeschool just didn't work for us that day, we just get to it on a different day. Maybe we do it in the evening, maybe we do it on the weekend, but we just get to it at another time. Now, next year, I'm also going to be sending my younger kids to preschool 5 days a week for a few hours in the morning so that I could have this dedicated time to focus on my oldest as well. So that is how I am balancing homeschooling, solo parenting, working full-time. There is a lot of prioritizing that needs to happen to figure out, okay, what tasks are most important for me to do in each of these areas? Where do I want to focus a little bit more of my efforts? In addition to, what do I have to say no to? You can't do it all. I know that there's a lot of slogans out there where we can do it all. You cannot do it all. You have to prioritize and say no to some things. And then you have to figure out where you need additional support and help. And this is where asking like my mom or my husband to provide more support in different areas is really helpful for me. Or I may need to find additional childcare options with the preschool or with daycare. Homeschooling has been something that's been really fun for us as a family. There's so much flexibility with it. So I can really balance what I am doing with homeschooling with what my demands are for work really well throughout the week. But it does require a lot of scheduling, a lot of coordinating, and it does take planning. So that would be my biggest tip if you are trying to do a lot of things throughout the week, is to schedule it, plan it for the week, and then stick to that schedule as best as you can. So I'm scheduling what our homeschooling blocks are, what my work time blocks are, what playtime blocks are, what are free play times, in addition to when am I going to work out, when am I going to go for a walk, and when are we going to do this activity. There is flexibility within my schedule throughout the week, but I am figuring out what our general idea is for each day, because that is what's going to help us to accomplish what we need. I hope this episode was insightful for you and helpful for you in figuring out how I am doing all the things that I am trying to do. This is not the way that you have to do things either, but we do get a lot of questions on it. So I just wanted to share some insight on what it is that we're doing as a family. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you want more support throughout your pregnancy or throughout your postpartum, be sure to join our online fitness programs where we can support you to feel strong throughout your pregnancy, pain-free as you prepare for birth, in addition to help you feel strong in motherhood. I'm currently doing our return to running program because I'm getting ready to train for a marathon. I was a collegiate runner in college, did ultra marathons before kids, and really just haven't gotten back to running since, but I'm kind of getting back into it now. And so I'm doing our return to running program. We just newly updated. I'm really excited about the updates for it. And hopefully working on a marathon program right now. Roxanne is testing it right now with a few of our friends that I talked into doing this marathon with us. So really excited about the offerings that we have to help you feel strong after you give birth and as you navigate motherhood. You can check out all of our fitness programs on our website at MamasteFit.com and use code MOMENTS10 to get 10% off any of our online offerings. And you can also bundle the prenatal and postpartum fitness programs together to save an additional 15% off. So thanks again for listening to Moments with MamasteFit. New episodes every other Friday. We're kind of flip-flopping with birth stories. New podcast episodes every Wednesday, and tons of content being released every day on our Instagram, on our YouTube channel. So be sure to follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, and thanks so much for joining me.